So, Richard, this is Richard Parsons from Bellavista Lodge. So
nice to meet you.
We're in northwest Ecuador at the moment in high cloud forest or upper cloud forest. So tell me, Richard, tell me about the forest. When you come in here from lower down, so lower down in the Tandayapa Valley. Tandayapa Valley goes from about 1,400 metres up to what,
2-3, well, yes, right at the top,
peak,
2-5.
Yeah, the road goes to 2-3.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So, and it changes at about 2,000 metres between the Andean cloud forest and this high cloud forest. So what makes it feel different to you?
You have a lot more tree ferns up here.
Mm-hmm.
You're more aware of the amount of bromeliads because there is actually more cloud coverage here. The cloud forest we talk about, because we're kind of at the top of the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
We have, therefore, an amazing diversity of orchids, amazing diversity of mosses, an amazing diversity of ferns. Some 150 species have been recorded. Of ferns have been recorded here.
What are the main tree types that you're getting up here?
We have a lot of cedro, we have colorado, and we have canelo. And other trees, which are common trees up here, we have a lot of croton. We have obviously a lot of imported aliso.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also an area where you naturally have of the suro or the chusquia bamboos, which is part of the habitat up here.
It's one of those things that is actually a microhabitat found mainly in this elevation.
Right.
But you could do bird assemblages just on that alone.
Absolutely.
So it's got to be like, okay, so you're in this area with the dominant habitat being this high cloud forest, and then you've got the bamboo forest as a microhabitat within that. One of the other things that I found interesting, I was just in India, and you know how a lot of the alisos that are planted here are the Nepal aliso.
Right.
So, you know, I went there and I saw these, and okay, so they seem familiar because here there are planted species and there they're not, but they're deciduous there. And yeah, it's really weird. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
They're in the northern hemisphere. You're at 27 degrees north. We're at the equator. But it was weird to see a plant that we have planted, which is leafed year round, and there it's deciduous. That was really cool. Mm-hmm.
Our annual rainfall goes between a little under 2,000 millimetres to about 2,500. There is a marked dry season, which is July, August and September, but particularly July and August. Some of those times show very, very little rainfall in a month of less than 100 millimetres.
Because there's this formula you can use that determines whether plants are actually undergoing water stress.
Mm-hmm.
So there may be no rainfall, but if the temperature is low enough, then it doesn't matter. But with the clouds is also interesting because we're down at Tandayapa Bird Lodge, we're sitting at 1,600 metres, and the clouds normally come down even in the dry season. They come down to about that 1,900, 2,000 metre elevation. So I think that's probably what makes the difference here. So bird-wise and animal-wise, what do you think, give me some examples of what's indicative of this environment? Because one of the things with the project we're doing is using bird assemblages to determine what habitats are when vegetation mapping can't pick it up.
You have here very easily to see the plate-billed mountain toucan, which is considered specifically of this elevation, endemic to this elevation. We have we have the beryl-spangled tanager as just one of many, many species of tanager. The most common tanager up here is the blue-winged mountain tanager.
Hummers up here, we've got things like gorgeted sun angel, your collared inca, and the collared inca sometimes gets lower, but very rarely. The violet-tailed sylph is in both. But here it really does feel like you've got more of like the white-bellied wood star. What speckled hummer's kind of found in a bunch.
Yeah,
it's found in a bunch.
Well, the most common hummingbird here is the buff-tailed coronet, and you really don't see that lower down the valley. So you got this, and it's really interesting to see exactly why this should be the case.
So I've been down in the lower Tandayapa Valley, and we had a buff-tailed coronet in the feeder one time. And we watched it fly out of the lodge, and it flew straight up. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, straight up towards your place. And it just seems that maybe it's because this valley is so steep that you do have a little bit more altitudinal migration between locations. Whereas if we were on a very flat slope, let's say, and parts of the eastern slope of the Andes are very gradual, There you might not get that movement because it's just a little bit, you know, it's not just a few hundred meters up, it's also 10 kilometers along. You know, neither you or I are looking much better, so we need a succession plan.